Hello.
Ahoy!
Welcome to episode 9 of Bottom of the Stream. We've done 9.
I know.
That's crazy. Do you know, I've got a fact for you about podcasts in general.
Hit me.
25% of all podcasts finish before episode 7.
Unlucky for some.
So we're in the high end of podcasts.
Past 7.
Yeah, we've gone past 7. You know, after that, 50% of all podcasts fail before episode 25.
25, that's the next
So that's
goal.
our next milestone. So if you're still listening to episode 25, we'll have a bit of a celebration.
Well, I mean, maybe I don't want to go too cheesy, but maybe it is a good point to say thanks to everyone who has been listening and
definitely.
downloading, because I think we've been pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I'm
with
I'm happy. You could spread it around that you've been listening and let people know. That'd be nice, and then we'd get more people listening, and we'll be even more happy. Yeah, I'm happy so far.
Yeah, tell your friends, tell your enemies,
tell anybody,
anyone.
We'll accept anybody as a listener.
Yeah,
don't care who you are.
And you can contact us, talk to us, tell us if you've seen any of these films.
Yeah,
agree, disagree.
Let's do it.
Totally ambivalent to any of our comments. Just
if
let
you
us know.
completely disagree with us, we want to know. We want to know about it just as much as we do if you completely agree with us.
How can we be contacted, Adam?
We can be contacted on Twitter at BOTS_podcast, on Instagram, which is the same, at BOTS_podcast, on Facebook, facebook.com/bottom of the stream. We have an email address, bottomofthestream@gmail.com, and the website is bottomofthestream.podbean.com. And on the website, you will find the stream table, which is where we rank the films that we watch in order of how much we enjoyed them and how much we would recommend them.
So we'll keep that going. Obviously, if we do make, it might start to become a bit unwieldy.
Yeah, I think
once we get to
there's going to be a point where we have to
20-ish plus episodes.
Yeah.
So we're not going to be reading it out every single week,
no,
but I think we'll still, if we're still going in 25 plus episodes,
we're not going. I'm not planning on going anywhere.
We'll still dot them in, but we won't.
Yeah,
we'll leave it up there for you to go.
At the end of every episode,
we'll
we'll decide where this one fits.
Yeah.
But it's up to you to go and find out.
Yeah, we're not going to read through 25 places every week.
No.
Once the table gets a bit bigger,
it's going to be harder to fit them in at the end of every episode. The more and more they become.
Well, I mean, I struggle genuinely to remember what I had for dinner last week sometimes. So
we are getting old.
If you're asking me in a few months to remember this film from, I suppose we could go and listen back, couldn't we?
Yeah, that'd give us more listens.
Oh, okay, there you go. 2 birds with one stone. I don't think that really counts.
The statistics say it does.
Okay. So anyway, tangents aside.
Yeah.
What are we talking about this week?
This week is slightly different because we are talking about Cube, which is a film from 1997, 22 years old this year, and we have both seen it before.
Yeah, I watched it for this.
Yeah, but you've seen it before that too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like we said at the end of last week's episode, we debated whether this should go on the list or not. It is at the bottom of the stream. People don't know it's there, and it's not a widely regarded film.
I wanted to put it on the list because I wanted to see it again.
Yeah,
because I haven't seen it for 15 or 20 years.
I reckon it's 20 years. I don't think I've watched it for 20 years.
I had this film on VHS.
Wow, you're so old.
Like pre-DVD.
I remember you having it on VHS because I remember watching it with you back in the day when we were young.
So it's from 1997.
1997.
So I was only, how old was I then? 16 in 1997.
16.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll be interested.
The films are 15, so you weren't breaking any laws.
Well, that was good to know.
You're fine. Directed by Vincenzo Natali, who was slated to become the next big thing in sci-fi directing at this point, back in 1997, and it didn't really happen.
So I think, obviously we'll talk about this film in more detail, but this definitely gave him a good leg up.
Yeah.
And a pretty good reputation. Yeah,
he's got a good reputation. He became more of a TV episode director rather than films. He's directed episodes of Orphan Black, Hannibal, Wayward Pines, The Strain, Luke Cage, American Gods, Westworld, Lost in Space. He's pretty highly regarded as a TV director, I think. But
so he has done a couple of films.
Yeah, he has done.
You may have seen. I haven't seen this film, but I've certainly heard of it. So Splice.
Yeah, I've not seen it, but I have heard of it.
And it's supposed to be pretty good. And he's got something in development, which might be quite up your street.
Very much so, and I didn't know it was in development until I started researching who he was.
So have you read this book? You're a massive Stephen King fan.
the biggest Stephen King nerd.
You're also a Joe Hill fan.
Yes. And
so explain if people don't know who is Joe Hill.
Joe Hill is Stephen King's son, who uses the name Joe Hill because he doesn't want to be Joe King, which is fair comment.
Who wants to be Joe King.
Exactly. They wrote a book together called In the Tall Grass. It's more of a novella. It's a shorter story. And that has been adapted into a film later this year, directed by this guy.
It's a good book?
Yeah, it's a good story.
Would it make a good film?
I hope so.
Without giving anything away?
No, I hope so. I didn't know it was in development. I'm really excited to find out that it is. He's also directing 2 episodes later this year of Lock and Key, which is Joe Hill's graphic novels.
Right.
They're being turned into a TV series. So that's also quite exciting. I've never read the graphic novels, but I heard lots of good things about them.
So this Vincenzo Natali, so he's developed a pedigree.
Yeah,
for
definitely.
Sci-fi, horror-y.
It just didn't really become the sci-fi god that everybody was expecting him to become. But he's certainly done well for himself anyway.
And this was his first movie?
Yeah, it was.
Excellent. I'm excited to talk about it.
There's a bit of history there on Vincenzo Natali.
Good. There's some good facts.
So Cube, what is Cube?
So the basic premise of Cube is that a group of unrelated people find themselves waking up in a sci-fi prison-y type facility.
It's a cube with a door on each surface.
It's a cube.
It's a lit cube with a door on each surface that leads to another identical lit cube.
Yeah.
And we'll find out how many there is later on in the film. We'll go into that. The film starts in one of the greatest moments in sci-fi history, I think. The film opens on an eye that turns out to belong to a passed out man who is lying on the floor of a cube. He tries all the different doors on the cube and makes his mind...
So he's in this cube. So he is in a room, which is a cube.
On his own. Yeah, he's in a room in a cube on his own. He tries one of the doors, he tries all of the doors and eventually chooses one. He walks through the door and instantly gets cubed himself. So he all of a sudden just falls into cubes.
He's like a human Jenga.
Yeah,
it turns out he's been basically run through by a cheese slicer.
Yeah, they completely cut him into... I can't describe it any other way to say he's been cubed.
He's been turned into pizza topping.
Yeah, he falls into this brilliant little scene and he falls into loads of little pieces. His body falls in half. It's brilliant. And then we get the cube title card.
So some of these rooms are booby-trapped.
Yes.
And I think that's really interesting, that first bit, because obviously it gets you thinking, it gets you talking, it grabs your attention.
Yeah.
You know, there's a guy who's just been cut up into chunks. But I think you described, when we were talking about this film at the end of the last episode, this as like, you know, I said it was possibly a precursor to stuff like Saw, and you said Hostel, you know, and saying it's that kind of gory horror. But that is pretty much the only really gory bit in this film.
Yeah, there is another one later on, but there is not a lot of gore in it.
This is not a gratuitous
No,
film.
this is not a Saw film.
And
or a Hostel film, but it is the film that inspired them, I think.
Watching this film again, like I say, for the first time in many, many years, I had misremembered how I hadn't given it enough credit.
Yeah, I agree.
For how thoughtful it is and how...
There's a lot in it. There's a lot goes into this film.
Yeah. It isn't smashing and grabbing you. It's not relying on the gore. It's not relying on tricks.
No.
It is driven by the story and the characters.
They quite early on find out how to avoid the traps. And
they don't actually come into play too much.
No. They use the set pieces throughout the film, but...
Yeah. It's about trying to escape this film. It's not about trying to avoid these traps.
Yeah, it is. It's certainly the film that inspired Saw. But...
Yeah.
Is not a Saw film. Yeah.
You've not asked me for my one-word review.
Oh, yeah. What's your one-word review?
Maths.
It is very mathy. I've got a paragraph to read to you later on of the maths.
Okay.
We'll see if we can decipher it, because I gave up in the end. So the film opens after the title card on 5 people in a cube. Are they all in the same cube to start with? I think.
No. So two of them wake up in the same room.
Okay.
So you've got Quentin.
Yeah.
Who is a cop, or an ex-cop, as it turns out.
Yeah.
And I suppose he's the nominal lead. Yeah, he is.
Yeah, he is the lead. Yeah, definitely.
Both in terms of lead role and sort of becomes the leader of this little group.
Yeah.
And then you've got Worth, who is a very quiet, mousy guy.
Mousy little guy.
Sort of in the corner. Then one of the doors open and they're joined by Holloway, who's sort of a middle-aged woman. Turns out she's a doctor.
Yes.
So she's going to be useful.
Definitely.
Maybe.
You'd hope so.
And then another woman joins them, who is Levin, who's a student.
Yes.
And that's all we know about her at the minute. Then they have a fifth person joins them, who's an older guy, who's called Ren.
Yeah.
Or what does Quentin call him? Rennes. He doesn't speak French.
Do you know all the characters in this film are named after prisons?
Oh, really?
Yeah. All 5, and each of their character traits is...
Holloway Prison,
Holloway
London.
Prison, exactly.
San Quentin Prison. I've heard of that.
Yeah. They're all, apparently as well, their personalities are descriptions of that prison as well.
Really?
Yeah. So I've read.
Oh.
You've got to love IMDb's trivia section.
I hadn't picked up on that. That's really interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, there's 5 of them all together in the same cube.
What happens next? How do they sort of work out that there may be a threat in some of these rooms?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. Fine. You can cut that bit out. So, as I say, Ren finds them and he kind of almost, not ignores them, but he kind of brushes them off and he's just passing through.
Yes.
So he goes straight to another door. He's got his boots round his neck.
Yeah.
And laced together.
Yeah.
Lobs one of his boots into the next room and it gets flamed.
Yes. So
by sort of flamethrowers.
This is how he's figured out which rooms are trapped and which rooms are not trapped.
Turns out this guy, Ren, is a master prison escape expert.
Yes.
And he says he's escaped from 7 prisons or something
like that, yeah.
And it turns out Quentin's heard of him.
Yeah.
Because he's a cop, and all cops have heard of all famous criminals.
I think that's fair to say.
Okay.
Probably not.
Right. No one remembers how they got there.
No. They're all,
why they're there.
Yeah, they're all completely unawares. 11 breaks her glasses. How does that happen?
That's just as she falls into the room, isn't it?
Yeah. It needs to be said because it's quite important later on, but
yeah.
she breaks her glasses. So they decide now that the best thing to do is move in a straight line.
Yeah.
Because there has to be an end.
Yeah.
That's their figure. They figure there has to be an end to it. If we keep going in a straight line, we'll be fine. And they keep doing that by throwing boots through the doors to see if the rooms are trapped or not. If they are, then they move up one and then still keep going in the same direction. And there's a bit of a montage of them moving around.
Yeah, so they move through a few rooms and the tactic seems to be working. You know, throwing the boots ahead of them and then pulling them back with the lace.
Yeah, they keep hearing lots of mechanical noises as well.
Yeah,
you don't really know what that is at this point.
We get to a point where Ren throws his boot into a room.
Yep,
nothing happens.
Decides it's safe.
Walks in.
You get your second gory scene in the film.
Does he say, "Oh shit"?
Something I think it is. Oh shit.
Merde. It's French.
That's it. It's French.
Get together, Nick. And he turns to the side and he's sprayed.
He gets a face full of acid.
With acid.
Yeah.
And his face melts off.
It's not vinegar this week.
No. It's proper acid and his whole face melts away. So he's still alive and they pull him back through to the room that they were in.
Yeah.
But
he isn't alive for long.
No. Obviously this is a bit of a downer to their plan.
Yeah, because he was there. He'd taken the lead, hadn't he? He was the prison expert. He was the one throwing the boots through. He knew what he was doing. Yeah. That room had some sort of biological detector that detected biology. It wasn't a motion sensor.
Yeah,
it was they detected matter rather than, so the boots didn't trigger the trap. Basically, is what I'm trying to say.
Because they are not alive.
Yes.
So they regather in this room, and Quentin, being a cop, he starts asking questions. So he says, I'm a cop. I can offer this team something. Holloway, you're a doctor. You can give us something. Ren, okay, he's dead now, but he was an escape artist. Yeah. So he starts to concentrate on worth. Why are you here? What's special about you? He says, well, nothing. I just work in an office. And he talks to Levin.
Yeah,
who's a student. Well, it turns out she's a maths student.
Yeah, she's really highly intelligent maths guru.
And Quentin, using his cop brain, then sort of says to Levin, "Why have you got your glasses? Because I haven't got any of my jewellery."
Yeah, Holloway's jewellery.
Holloway hasn't got any of her jewellery. It's all been taken. There must be
a reason why you have your glasses.
Why have they, whoever they are, let you keep your glasses?
And why are you here?
Yeah.
What is your expertise? What are you going to help us with?
They then spot
each cell cube.
Yeah, between in the doorway between each room, there's
a series of numbers.
Yeah.
So like a serial number for each cube. Basically.
So it's three-digit numbers.
Yeah, that is right. And Levin realizes that the safe rooms have no prime numbers
Correct.
out of those 3 numbers.
Yeah.
I'm with it so far.
Yeah.
Okay, so they start moving along using this method.
Yeah, new
which
plan.
works. They're moving. It's getting them through it. And all the rooms that they're going through are safe. She's declaring them safe by reading the numbers. If they're not prime, we move into the room. Everybody's happy.
So again, they move through another several rooms and come to a bit of a halt.
Because they get to one where every door has a prime number on it.
Yeah.
And then
they look up.
They look up and realise that obviously
they haven't checked the one in the ceiling.
The one in the ceiling.
They go to open it and it's kind of stuck, isn't it?
Yeah.
Eventually they sort of manage to twist the lock and pull the door open, and someone falls through on top of them.
A crazy man falls through.
So this is where we meet a chap called Kazan.
Who's
is that
really
a
good.
prison?
Yeah.
As in is that Kazan as in like Rubin Kazan in Russia?
Presumably. I don't know which
say
prison
yes.
it is. Yes.
Oh. Okay. Yeah, why not? So he is a mentally handicapped
That's
gentleman.
the line they use in the film.
Yeah.
That is an outdated term that you're not allowed to say anymore, apparently.
Okay.
So he's now intellectually disabled.
Right. Okay. They sort of start to have, as they're moving around, have various theories, don't they? So Quentin just thinks this is all some rich psycho who's just bunged them in this prison for fun. Holloway thinks that they are part of, they're in a government conspiracy. She's a bit of a conspiracy theorist. Yeah. And Worth just kind of says, nah, there's no such thing. No such thing as Big Brother. It's just, we're here. Don't, we're just here.
Don't sweat the small stuff.
Yeah.
Holloway gives them all a bit of a fright when she jumps into a room and swallows a button.
Yes, because they're all sort of chewing on their buttons from their...
Keep their mouths moist.
Yeah, from their pyjamas, basically. They're in prison
garb.
Issue garb, aren't they? And they're all chewing on their buttons because they've got, obviously, no food, no water.
Yeah. That's the urgency of this film as well. That there's no food or water in any of the cubes.
Correct.
So they do need to get out, otherwise they are going to die in there. She jumps into a room and swallows a button, and they all think that their plan is backfired because the room
she's
should be
been
safe.
choking. Yeah,
but then she's all right. Quentin nearly gets cheese wired to death.
Yes,
because he jumps into a room that should be safe, but isn't safe.
Yeah. So the method,
the number system fails.
Isn't working.
The method is more luck than anything at this point that they've gotten that far, because their number system is not correct.
So Quentin's really pissed off, and
he gets angry.
Yeah, and he has a lot of anger issues through this film. And he takes it out on Worth.
Yeah.
He wants to know, why is he here? You're the only one who's not done anything. You're useless. Turns out, the office that Worth worked in, he had a very specific job.
Yes.
What was that?
He designed the outer shell of the cube.
Yeah.
So he knows the dimensions of the cube, which we find out at this point.
Yeah. So him and Levin then work out, because of her clever maths brain, and his knowledge of the dimensions of the building itself.
434 foot square, which Levin works out is 26 rooms on each axis. It gives a total of 17,576 rooms.
They're a lot of rooms.
It's a lot of cubes. And they work out as well from that they are only 7 rooms from the edge.
Yeah. Don't
ask me how, because the maths lost me at this point. But they work out that they're only 7 rooms. It gets really mathy. There's lots of it.
Yeah, and essentially, actually, these numbers are grid references.
Yeah, basically. I googled it to see if I could understand it, and I found a bit on Wikipedia that explains the maths. So if I read you this, do you think you're going to be able to understand the maths?
I'll give it a go.
Okay, so it says, each room is labelled with 3 identification numbers. For example, 517, 478, 565. These numbers encode the starting coordinates of the room, and the X, Y, and Z coordinates are the sums of the digits of the first, second, and third numbers, respectively. The numbers also determine the movement of the room. The subsequent positions are obtained by clinically subtracting the digits from one another, and the resulting numbers are then subsequently added to the starting numbers.
So she's really good at maths.
She's really good at maths. She's better at maths than I don't even understand what most of those words mean.
So I think essentially the numbers. So you know how you'd plot a graph on an axis, you'd have just a y and an x-axis, and you'd have a really simple one. So 3 up, 9 across. That's your point. So these have 3 numbers. You have an x-axis, a y-axis, and a z-axis.
Yeah.
So you can 3D plot
Where you are.
Because we're in a cube.
Yeah.
That's essentially what all this is working out.
Yeah. Levin figures that out because she's a maths genius.
I mean, she is proper like Hawking level genius
to get
be able to do all this mentally.
Just from 3 numbers on a door. She's a clever girl. It's at this point where they find a sound activated room. So they're looking down on it and I've lost completely track of what I was saying. So they're looking through their floor.
Yes.
Into the room below.
And that's definitely the way they want to go.
That has to be the way they go. There's no other choice. But the room is sound activated and as soon as you make any noise, a shitload of spikes fly out from every corner and angle and side of the room.
Yeah.
And you're going to get impaled on them. There's no way you're missing them. So they have to be as quiet as they possibly can, but they do have to go through this room. This is not easy when you've got Kazan with you, because he likes to make noise.
Yes.
Lots of noise.
So they work out, don't they, that... I'm glad they mentioned it, because it was the obvious question, so they did cover it. So when you open all these doors all the way through that they've been opening, they make a sort of... sound.
Hydraulic.
So they do say, it must be programmed to ignore that sound.
Conveniently, yeah.
Very convenient. But yeah, they decide they've got to go down that way. So they, one by one, they silently descend.
Yes.
And they definitely made some noise.
Yes, definitely.
So I watched this on my own, and I thought, I'm going to see if I can hear them make any noise. I could hear every footstep and hand.
Yeah.
Because there's little ladders almost, isn't
surface,
there, to allow them to get around the rooms. And I heard everyone.
Yeah, I agree. I thought exactly the same thing.
But we'll put that aside.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, it wasn't enough noise to trigger the trap. So Worth goes through first, because Quentin's making him do everything now he knows that he's involved.
Yeah, he hates this guy.
Yeah. Levin goes through after that, and the rest follow. It's really tense. At this point, I thought...
It is
a really tense scene, because... It is, you're saying it's not quiet, but it is silent.
Yeah.
And you know that something's going to happen at some point. They all make it through. And just as Quentin's about to get through the door into the next room, Kazan makes his noise and all the spikes shoot out, but Quentin manages to dive through just in time before he gets impaled.
He's quick, isn't he?
Very quick when he has to be. He was not happy though.
No.
He was.
So his rage is ever increasing, isn't it?
He's getting more and more angry as this film goes on.
What did you think of his acting?
I thought he was really good.
I thought he was good. He was a bit hammy at times.
Yeah,
but I think that's just because he was probably directed to just be
as angry as you can.
Be more angry.
Yeah.
And there's only so many levels of angry you can go before it comes across as...
Got to remember as well, this film's 22 years old. It was made on a budget of £350,000, which is not a lot more than Murder Party last week. And it's billion times better made than that film is.
Yeah, and you can forgive it the slightly hammy acting. You can forgive it the... it's a bit wooden at times, but it's
none of the actors have ever really gone anywhere from it.
Yeah, it's fine. It's tense, like you say. It sells that tension really well.
Yeah.
And it's a really intriguing concept.
Yeah, it is.
That more than outweighs the sort of, like I say, slightly wooden acting at points.
I agree. You just have to ignore that sort of thing.
You're willing to forgive all that because it's... Well, I was along for the ride on this.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. So Quentin gets through the room and he starts going off at Kazan, and Holloway defends him because she's taken on like a motherly type of role to him because she's a doctor. And he hits her.
Yeah, he's a bastard.
He's a horrible human. Yeah, he gives her a right smack in the face.
He is unravelling fast.
Yeah, he's going down.
And she says something to him like, is this how you treated your wife and kids?
Yeah.
Because it turns out he's got an ex-wife. And
also didn't go down very well. No. Then they realise now that they're at the edge.
Yeah, this is it. This is the last...
They've made it to the final cube. They should be at the edge of the cube now. So when they open the next door, they don't know what they're going to find. And what they do find is a black expanse of nothing.
Yeah, so they are at... You can look up and you look down.
Yeah.
And you can see...
Seemingly endlessly.
Yeah, so you can see the lights and the sort of handles of equivalent rooms.
Yeah.
But you can't see the bottom, can't see the top.
Can't see the sides.
But so I presume there's like an expanse and then there's something else over the other side.
There's a wall because they decide that they're going to try and swing over the void. which is the exact size of a cube.
So they're in a cube, in a cube,
Yeah.
in a cube.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they decide, well, we're at the edge, we've got to try something.
We've got to do something. So
we'll make a rope out of our prison pyjamas.
Yeah, they take all their clothes off.
They've still got their underwear on. We're not having a naughty party.
They take all their upper layer of clothing off. Upper layer? Outer layer of clothing off.
Just their jumpers.
They end up topless. They've all got the same underwear on, which I found quite funny.
Well, yeah, it's prison.
Prison underwear.
Yeah.
And Holloway decides that she's the one who needs to swing over because she's the lightest.
Second lightest.
But
they don't want to let Levin go because she's got maths uber brain.
She's important. So they make a rope out of the clothes. Holloway goes for a swing.
Goes down a bit.
Can't
find anything. Starts to come up. Goes for a swing.
Yeah.
Can't find anything. Can't reach the other side. Then she slips.
She does.
And so they're holding her quite steady. They've got a lot of rope left in their room.
Yeah.
She slips. They almost lose her.
Yeah.
No, pull her back at the last minute.
Quentin gets her.
Yeah, start pulling her back up. So Quentin's at the front, so he's leading out of the room over the edge. Pull her back up. He grabs her by the arm.
He's going to pull her back in.
Then he's looking, his eyes change.
Yeah, then he loses it. Big start.
Drops her.
Oh,
because she made that crack about his wife and kids.
Yeah, quite intense. He made out like it was an accident. It was quite not an accident. It was quite intentional. He let her go, and she just falls into the vast black expanse. And she's done.
What a knobhead.
What an horrible knobhead. Yeah, he dropped her deliberately. So now they decide that they need to get to the bottom of the cube. So they're already at the edge, but obviously they need to get to the bottom.
Yes.
Yeah? That's how I understood it.
Yes, but they decide to have a rest.
Yeah, they do.
First.
Okay.
So, hang on, I'm not sure if I've quite got this in the right order, but let's go with it and you stop me. So, I've got it. So, after this event happens, obviously, Quentin turns around and says to them, well, she slipped.
Yeah.
So, they decide to kind of have a rest where they are.
Yeah.
Before trying, I think what you said, to try and move down.
Yeah, because he turns to Levin and he says, you need to go down.
Yeah.
I thought that was really creepy.
And Quentin wakes up first and he kind of kidnaps Levin.
Yeah.
And they leave Worth and Kazan behind them. Worth kind of comes through and saves Levin.
Yeah.
Because it was, I think Quentin was threatening to get a bit rapey, actually.
Yeah, I think he was.
I
think that was the implication.
And Quentin beats Worth up again.
Yeah, he launches a boot at his head.
Yeah.
And then batters him and he drops him into the next room, doesn't he? He drops him through the floor into the next room without checking it.
And without checking it. And then Worth is just lying there and he just starts laughing.
He starts laughing. Why does he start laughing, Nick?
Because he happens to have landed next to the body of Ren.
So they've been going in circles. This whole time they've got almost back to where they started.
And Ren's still dead with no face.
Ren's still dead. But Worth realises at this point that the room that killed Ren is not there anymore. He opens the door and it is not there.
Yeah.
Which means that the cubes are moving.
Correct.
Which explains the mechanical noises they heard earlier on.
Correct.
And Levin figures out using her maths brain that one of the rooms acts as a bridge to get them out.
Because she remembers that. So if you remember from what you stated at the start about there being 26
by 26.
Yeah.
By 26.
She remembers that she'd seen one of the numbers reference a 27, which would mean it's outside of the cube.
So she figures that room must be the bridge. So that room moves. If they'd have stayed where they were in that room, nothing would have happened.
Yeah. So that room, they would have been outside the inner cube, between the inner cube and the outer cube, and they would have been able to, in theory,
get out,
walk out.
Yeah, in theory. It's really, really complicated, but in the context of the film, it all does make sense. It's not. You don't need to know crazy maths to be able to understand what's going on.
So they know what they need to do. They need to get back to that room.
Yeah.
With the 27 number on the coordinates.
Yeah.
Because then they will be in the bridge room. Then they just need to stay there and wait for it
to get into the right position.
To get into the position.
So
she does a load more coordinates.
Yeah.
And calculations. And she kind of works out that she thinks they've got, is it 2 more mechanically noise things
before
to get there?
They also decide they need to get away from Quentin.
Yes.
So Worth traps his head in a door as they're trying to get through,
Yeah.
and then drops him through a floor door.
Yeah.
In the same way that Quentin dropped him through a floor door earlier on. And they get to the end.
Yeah, so there's one just important bit worth mentioning. So to navigate to the end, there's a little bit more complicated maths, because they then need to work out the factors of all these numbers, don't they?
Yeah.
To work out which
course,
room is safe to go into. And Levin explains that this is way too complicated maths.
Even for her, this is... you need a computer to be able to work this out, is basically what she's saying.
But fortunately...
they have a computer.
They've got Rain Man.
Kazan turns out to know...
factors.
So she reads him a number, he gives her the factor, they decide if the room's safe or not.
Yeah. And they start moving quick.
Really quick, yeah. They have to, because they know now that they're on a time constraint. So they eventually get there. They get to this bridge room, and it moves into position.
They work out that the bridge room is the same room they started in.
Yes, because how did they work it out?
Remind me.
Levin finds a piece of glass
From her glasses.
And so if they'd have never moved, they would have been fine.
Yeah.
Which is what she said in the first place. She says at the beginning of the film, we should just stay here and wait it out. And if they had done, they'd have got out. None of this would have ever happened. That's got to be soul destroying.
Because they've been going around for a couple of days, I think. Because, Holloway at the start sort of says, well, she's a doctor. We've got 3 days in here without food or water. We've probably got that 3 days. And they're all in bad shape by this point.
Yeah.
So they've not been in there a short while.
Time has definitely passed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're down to 3, aren't we? We've got, as I say, we've got Worth, Levin, and Kazan.
Yeah.
So now they just got to wait.
Yeah. And they do. And the room moves into position. But as it moves, Kazan gets left behind.
Yes.
Because he doesn't get through the door quick enough.
Yeah, so the last mechanical moving of the cube, he doesn't come through the gap in time. So...
but they can still hear him.
Yeah, so he's not gone far.
Because he's noisy.
Yeah.
All the way through, he's noisy. So they realise they haven't gone far, so they need to go back for him.
So Levin and Worth...
Yeah.
Yeah, they do. They go back
for him.
They haul him back to where they were. And this is kind of Worth redeeming himself, isn't it? Because he's like, I've got nothing... while I'm here, I'm useless. I help people. But I knew that people were coming in this place. But anyway, they get back to this last room, and it slides into place.
Yeah.
They open the door. There's a bright light. You don't see what's out there, but it's a bright white light, so it's an exit.
Yeah.
They're just about to leave.
Yeah.
And the opposite door opens.
Yeah.
And Quentin's back.
Yes.
He's dragged himself. I don't know how this guy's still alive.
How he's managed to find it when he didn't have the maths people with him, I don't know, but he's done it. He must have followed noisy Kazan.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Or by look or by judgment, how he's made it through, because he's not a clever guy.
Yeah.
He runs Levin through with a handle off one of the doors.
Yeah, he's broken the handle off the door and stabs her to death.
So she's gone, and yes,
right at the end, in the very last room.
She was the ended up being the heroine, the leader of this group. Which is really... I'd forgot. I couldn't remember any of this.
I agree.
I didn't remember the detail at all.
I knew the basics of the film, but I didn't remember I didn't remember how mathy it was. And I didn't remember the detail of...
I was gutted when she got...
It was devastating, because she was the one that helped them all the way through.
She was gutted as well.
Yeah.
Literally. So, she's gone. Kazan walks out.
Yeah.
So he's gone into the light. He's escaped.
Well, Quentin stabs Worth first.
Yeah.
Before that. So he's been stabbed as well.
Yeah, Kazan walks out. Quentin's going to get out.
Yeah.
And it turns out Worth
is not dead.
Yeah. He sort of leaps up. He grabs Quentin by the legs.
Yeah.
Quentin's like half in, half out.
Just as the room starts moving.
Yeah.
And as it moves, Quentin gets scraped up the wall.
Yeah, so you don't really see that.
You don't see it happen. You
see a splodge of red in the sort of
he basically gets
bad
crushed
CGI.
between the two rooms.
Yeah.
Split in half between the two rooms, and you see a bit of bloody wall.
And Worth is left to live out his final minutes, I guess.
Yeah, he's not going to survive.
Back in the room where he started.
So Kazan makes it out alive.
Worth has proven his worth.
It's true.
By, taking care of Quentin, ensuring Kazan could get out, and sacrificing himself.
And that's the end of your film.
Yeah.
Kazan walks off into the light. You don't see what's outside the cube. Apparently there was a scene filmed of what's outside the cube, but when the director came to cut the film, that was the first thing he cut out.
Okay.
According to IMDb's trivia again. Yeah, you never see what's outside the cube. You never get any information of what the cube is or who built it. And that's the end of it.
Did you enjoy this?
I loved it.
Yeah?
Yeah, I really did enjoy it.
More than you thought you would? How did it compare to what in your brain you had as
the one thing I
what
was
you
worried
thought
about is how well it had aged. After watching the trailer last week, the trailer's not aged well. The trailer is as 90s as it gets. But I think the film holds up. I think
it does look dated.
Yeah.
And it's not sharp. It's not, like I say, it's hammy in parts, but it's propelled by a good enough story and good, decent enough acting.
Yeah. Effects that still hold up, I think.
Yeah.
The special effects hold up, I think.
Yeah. Because it's not, like we talked about Murder Party last week, and maybe that left us quite cold because of how good the makeup and effects were.
Yeah.
The fact that these weren't, you weren't seeing that sort of grisly detail in this, so when anything gory did happen, it fit in with everything else, and it works. Oh yeah, I really enjoyed rewatching this.
I did as well. I really enjoyed it.
I didn't really remember much of it.
No, I didn't.
As I was going,
I was surprised because I thought I knew what was going to happen, and didn't at all know what was going to happen. There are 2 sequels to this film.
Okay.
So, Cube 2 is called Cube 2 Hypercube. And Cube 3 is called Cube 0, which we believe is a prequel.
I think I read that it's a prequel.
Okay, I'm not sure if I've seen Cube 2. I don't think I have. And if I thought have, it isn't for a very long time.
I might have done, but I'm not so sure now.
And I definitely haven't seen the third one.
Yeah.
But
they're not directed by the same
They're
chap.
not, and unfortunately they're not on Netflix.
Okay.
Which is strange when what the first one is, but the second 2 aren't. Which is...
I don't know if you read in some of your research that 3 or 4 years ago there was quite a strong rumour that this was getting a remake treatment.
Oh really?
But it's never got off the ground.
That's a shame because does it need a remake? I don't know.
You could do it and it could be glossier and
be interesting. It'd be interesting.
Worse stuff that's been remade.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun watching this again.
I did as well. And
I thought I might be disappointed compared to what my brain vaguely remembered.
Yeah.
But no, I thought it still stood up. Yeah, it looks a bit dated around the edges.
It's 22 years old. I think most films from the 90s
and it was a cheap film then, 22 years ago.
Exactly.
So it's never going to, like I say, look slick.
Remember when Independence Day came out and everybody said how amazing it was? So you watch that now, it does not look amazing. So...
But yeah, I really enjoyed watching this. If you've never seen Cube, watch Cube.
Yeah, definitely.
It'll pique your interest.
If you're into that sort of film.
No, I generally,
I'd recommend it to most people I know, I think.
I would as well. It's of its time, but it's different and it'll make you think.
It's a cool classic. It probably isn't remembered as highly as it should be because it is wallowing at the bottom of the stream on Netflix, but it doesn't deserve to be done there. Stream table.
Okay.
Where are we going?
I think it breaks into the top 3 for me.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. I agree. Does it break into the top 2? It's not better than Little Evil.
No, it's not enough to knock.
It's not
Little
enough
Evil
to go.
That's the most fun I've had watching something for this podcast.
Agreed. That stays there. Is it better than Bait?
Yeah, I think I could be persuaded it is.
I think I can as well, and I think I want to put it in at number 2.
Yeah. I mean, it's completely different to Bait. So it's tricky to compare, but that's what we were to do, isn't it? Yeah. So, I think I would have it as number 2.
I have no issue putting Cube in at number 2.
Excellent.
Pushing Bait down to number 3. Okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm totally with it, yeah.
If they're that easy every week, then we'll be happy. We're ready to pick next week's film?
I've got one more thing that I did note down.
Okay.
Actually. Why do you think it was Kazan that escaped?
I don't know.
I just thought it was interesting that he was the only one who was not worried at all about. Well, he was just there. He wasn't worried about why they were there.
Yeah.
Who they were all supposed to, what the purpose was, and he just was.
Yeah, he just was who he was. He wouldn't have got out without the rest of them, but
true. I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
I
liked
it. Were you okay with its sort of? Did you want any answers along those lines of why they were there, who put them in there, and because they were all obviously selected because they had a specific set of skills.
Part of me thinks, I really do want to know what happened, and why they were put in there. But part of me thinks that's probably explained at some point in the next 2 films. I'll
I
probably
don't
just
know.
go and watch them.
Well, yes, but they were. This, as you said, is a bit of a cult classic, and they weren't.
Yeah,
So
they weren't. There's no explanation in this film at all.
if this got remade, all that stuff would be in there.
Yeah, it would. You'd have scenes...
And it'd probably be really annoying.
Yeah, I agree. You'd have scenes outside the cube of them being kidnapped. And
of like someone in a control room or...
Yeah, you don't need that. So
I don't
you're right. I don't want to know. Okay. But I'm pretty sure in the sequels and the prequel it does get... So I'm going to watch them.
I like that. I think that's part of its charm is it just leaves all that to your imagination.
Yeah. I'm definitely going to watch the second and third ones now.
Well,
I don't know how I'm going to find them, but I'm going to try and find them from somewhere. Can't be that difficult. There's ways and means of finding any films these days. So, next week's film. Ready?
Yeah, let's go for it.
I'm going to press the button. Nick's smiling like a crazy person because earlier today he told me that he really wanted to watch this film. So the film that's come out...
I can't believe that's come up. Honestly.
The film that's come out is a film called The Dawn Wall. Now, what is The Dawn Wall, Nick?
It's a documentary.
It's a documentary. We're doing documentaries now. Okay.
So I don't really know too much about this. Other than it looks interesting.
Okay.
So I added it on.
I'm going to read the synopsis. It says, in an unbelievable story of perseverance, free climber Tommy Caldwell and climbing partner Kevin Jorgensen attempt to scale the impossible 3,000 Dawn Wall of El Capitan. I'm going to put the audio of the trailer in.
Yeah.
Do you want to watch the trailer?
Yeah.
It's on for 3 minutes.
Go for it.
When you see El Capitan for the first time, it takes your breath away.
Early in the morning, there's this one panel of the wall that illuminates first, the Dawn Wall.
It has never been climbed until Tommy Caldwell came along. Nobody had actually considered trying it.
It's like stepping off the edge of the earth.
I guess the question here is, why are you doing this?
I was this very fragile little kid.
He didn't crawl till he was over 2.
I think my dad felt the best way to prepare this kid for the world was to toughen him up a little bit. And so he took me on all the craziest climbing walls you could ever do, and he did it with a 6-year-old. By the time I was 14 or 15, there was climbs that I could do that my dad couldn't.
Tommy became one of the best young climbers.
And then we got invited to Kyrgyzstan to rock climb. And all of a sudden, we were hostages.
After being held captive for 6 days, 4 young Americans confront the ultimate choice: to kill or be killed.
He saved our lives.
But he became a different person.
Ever since Kyrgyzstan, I just have this fire in me. This has always been my safe place, my way to deal with life. And I was looking across at the Dawn Wall, the last unclimbed big swath of stone. I decided maybe that could be climbed. I needed a partner.
Kevin, he was one of the best in the world, but only up to about 30 feet.
But everybody else thought I was crazy.
At this point, I have no idea what I'm getting into. It's about to consume 6 years of my life.
This is a pipe dream, man. Come on.
Nothing left to do but just take a couple deep breaths.
If Tommy and Kevin can actually do this, it will be, come on, the most difficult climb ever done. And it's going to go on day after day.
Suddenly, the whole world was watching.
You okay, man?
And one of them stuck. It was pretty clear that that was it.
I don't want to hold you back.
Maybe this climb really was impossible. We are capable of so much more than we could ever imagine.
I'm very excited.
That looks mental. I'm excited now. That's a very good trailer. Completely different to anything we've watched before. I don't know how we're going to be able to go through it scene by scene and dissect it, but it's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah, we just talk about it. I think it will be interesting to go through because we don't need to capture plot points necessarily.
No, exactly. Or talk about acting or anything like that.
We'll
it's going to be. I'm out of my comfort zone. I like to watch a documentary. I've never really sat and talked about a documentary, so it's going to be
good.
Fun. I'm looking forward to that one.
The Dawn Wall.
And after that episode, we're going to do something a bit different.
Yeah.
Aren't we?
Yeah. Do you want to talk about it now or should we talk about it next week? So are we just teasing it?
We're gonna make an announcement at the end of next episode, but I don't want to tease. It's not nothing major. I don't want to tease it too much.
No, we're just gonna have a slightly.
We're gonna have a
different
special episode,
aren't we?
We're gonna have a special
bonus,
episode, a
some
bonus
might say.
episode that will come out in the middle of the week after the Dawn Wall episode comes out. So look forward to that. You're going to get 2 episodes in a week.
Yeah,
it's a special. So watch the Dawn Wall before then, and we'll be back next week to talk about it.
Cheers.
Bye.